Hi guys, I'm back in Vienna and I'm very happy to be back. It was an amazing trip. I'm happy I went for my visit to Georgia. It was quite spectacular. I was very happy to do it, and I was also lucky to get this article published to call for the Euro for Georgia. I'm now trying to publish the article for the Euro for Ukraine, but in the post-war, in the war situation, because I published already one, and I'm happy for all advice and feedback. But it's really important that we counter the Russian aggression. They are now introducing the ruble in occupied Ukraine, and that's a very fundamental and important step to do. So it's very important that we now counter that, and I just have to cross the street here as well. And the situation is, we need to be ready to counter that by basically the euro in Ukraine. And it makes a lot of sense. Where are the main arguments? The main arguments are very logical. First of all, the reconstruction of Ukraine is much better on a firm fundament of a firm currency. That's obviously the euro. Then the symbolism, the short-term effect, because it's directly there, it's visible. The normal way to inflate war costs away, it's very damaging. It's very damaging. So what the normal way would be, normal, let's say, standard economics, you have now, the currency is fixed, it's not exchangeable, so you put it then flexible, you devaluate, you make high inflation, and you put the war costs towards the consumers. Yeah, do you want that? It's ultimately much better to put the war costs to the all Europeans, because that's the only way to fund them ultimately. And so basically you introduce the euro, you enforce fiscal responsibility on Ukraine. We anyhow have to co-finance all the war costs as European taxpayers together. There's not another way, because it's 5 billion a month now, the cost, and this will go on and on. There's no way this war will stop. Maybe we'll come to a stalemate, but the basic underlying confrontation and constant fighting, maybe to a lower degree, but I don't think could only be stopped by NATO intervention. We are not ready, so they will fight and fight and fight. Maybe more along a contact line like from 2015 to 2022, but it will be a constant mess, and Ukraine will not be able to afford the massive costs alone. So obviously we have to pay, and then it makes much more sense if it's all done on the basis of our currency. That's the logic. So everything is stable, and we did the same for exactly that reason in Montenegro and Kosovo. And the Ukraine finances must be anyhow from now on under some kind of co-management between the EU and Ukraine. There's no way this can continue otherwise, because how should that be? How should the Ukrainians cope? They must be co-managed now, the funding. There's no other way to do that. And then we basically put it on some kind of, like in the Greek debt crisis. That's already, I'm sure, the case. And anyhow, if you want to join the EU, it's a limitation of sovereignty, and that has to be front-loaded as well, as I said a lot of times already. And so this co-management, like European semester plus must be then Ukraine basically fiscally really already fully in the EU, which the other candidate countries cannot. But when we pay so much, it must be, and that's the logic to get this done. There's not another way. Yes, I will sort out all these arguments and I will publish them as well. But the euro for Ukraine, really, anything else would be even damaging now at this moment. And also we are in a competition with Russia, in a deadly competition. If their economic system now, they integrate all these regions they occupy. They stolen it, yeah, but they integrate it fully. So let's suppose they will be more successful, because they are economically, the argument is simple to make, they are then fully integrated in the Russian economy. That's not as good as our economy, but it's a working economy, and they are part of a bigger market. And there will be major reconstruction efforts then from the Russians, obviously. I've made this article already, the Putingrad he will build instead of Mariupol, and so on and so on. So this is the future as they see it. And they have the economic means to do that. They have revenues, they have taxpayer money. They will reconstruct in order to make a showcase of their success. That's the logic of Putin. He has rebuilt Grozny, he has destroyed it first and he has rebuilt it. That's his logic. So then economically, they are part of the Russian economic system. They have the ruble, they are part of a bigger market, and they will get a lot of public money. So imagine one day they are relatively successful. And then they will say, oh look, the Russian world is working, the Russian system is working, the Russian ruble is working. We reject the euro for Ukraine, and then it will be, of course, they have the hryvnia, they will devaluate, yeah. They will not be fully in the EU, not in the customs union. They will be somehow, at least that they will get what I read, the EU potential candidate status. But that's for Kosovo and for Bosnia as well. So that's then for the next, let's say, 20 years. And we will not do a debt package, a big one like Lindner is stopping it, the big 1.5 trillion, which I was proposing, and which is the logic of Europe. That makes a lot of sense to share the burden of the economic and war costs and the rearmament on all taxpayers and on a lot of time, the timeline for 20 years. It's much better than to digest the shock directly, but to share it all. And then we do it like this, and then it all makes a lot of sense. And then we can say, hello, we did it, it was working, we are okay, we have really done progress, and that would be the logic of my proposal. The euro, the big debt package, yeah? And of course EU and NATO membership as fast as possible, but that takes some time. So if we don't, and just the EU potential candidate status, by the way, it is a good status, it's very important, it's historic achievement, yeah. I fight for 6 years for that, yeah? But obviously also it's not such a, you cannot eat that, you cannot see that. It's a historic success for Ukraine institutionally, politically, historically, yes, but it doesn't really solve any short-term problems. Short-term problems can be solved with a lot of money and with the euro as currency. And so that's my logic here. And when the hryvnia continues, let's continue this picture. The hryvnia continues, there is devalued another half of the value, because half of the economy is only the output. Let's say it's already only on 30% compared to pre-2014, and now it's at, let's say, 30, and then it will be at 50, let's say, the hryvnia to the euro. Yeah? That's a realistic value. And then, of course, the people will have lost a lot, their whole lives, of course, the whole war-related damages, and then another currency shock. It's inevitable if you don't introduce the euro. And I'm in favor of introducing it at the current exchange rate, which is very generous and will be very expensive for Europe. But that's like the cost of German unity, similar. And we can issue this on the debt package, basically. That's why I included it. And so it's not so expensive, we can manage, because we are not so much in debt. The energy crisis is much more expensive now. So basically, that's the idea. That's the idea. And yeah. And if we don't do it, yes, that I wanted to make. I was forgetting my argument. When we don't do it, then Russia integrates the occupied territories I hope it's not too many, but they seemingly didn't want to give up. Kherson, Zaporizhia, half of it they have, and then the two oblasts, they will definitely conquer them, and then the war will come some kind of grinding standstill after their conquest of, because they also don't have that resources to conquer more. They failed in that one. And then there will be the integration on the one side, and Ukraine will continue in the limbo, maybe with, I'm sure, with some EU future for 20 years, but with this Rivna at 50. And so there will be a hesitation to reconstruct. This will be not so easy, and there will be no debt package as I propose. And then we are not as successful as Russia. Then every day in the Russian TV and in Ukrainian TV they will say Mariupol rebuilt, Putin opening stadiums, airports and all these things. They are now part of new Russia and annexed, like big Anschluss. And in our side, in free Kherson, in free Zaporizhia and in free Ukraine, which will be 80%. 80%, they have about 20% now. They will conquer maybe 2-3% of landmass more, but it's maximum 25. That will be the Russian occupied Ukraine, the new GDR. And it will be maybe quite successful if they integrate it fully in their economic system. I don't think so, but let's, for the sake of it, argue in that direction. And our system, our Ukraine, our 75% will not be very successful. So, and then we are in a complete mess. And every day in television they will say, look, the European system is producing miserable results. Because we didn't do the currency thing, we didn't offer the currency to Ukraine, like in Kosovo, where actually 20 years on, we have very good results. Montenegro, very good results. And they are very small and disadvantaged economy. They are not as rich as Ukraine. So Ukraine can be very successful with the euro. And then of course, you know, there is the other arguments with lower inflation, lower interest rates, because the hryvnia was always a very big disaster currency. It was always high inflation, high interest rates, and it was never very good. There's also then no currency risk anymore. There's price transparency. There's trust of the foreign investors and of the domestic investors in the currency. That's very important. Yes, of course, there is no hryvnia anymore. Then you have to no kind of ancient Ukrainian figures on your money, but then you have the symbol of Europe that you use every day for all transactions, and I think that's very good. That's, in my view, the best way to do it. Good. That will be my topic, as it is already since September 2021, for the coming weeks, to campaign for that. Yes, it's very important, and for Austria NATO accession. But Ukraine absolutely needs the euro now. Thanks a lot, here from Vienna, from Pax Europiana, the euro for Ukraine. Bye.